because of the substance of my work, the imagery comes through the subconscious. I think there is something about it that sometimes triggers the viewer to go, without even knowing, trigger something in the viewer's subconscious too, and they sort of relate to the work. Yes. And sometimes they don't know why. People, it could look strange, but also there is an appeal to it that I think it has to do with it works in a different. My work, there is a lot of symbolism. Obviously, it's not symbolism that I created to portray something or to communicate a particular idea. It's basically something that just came out that way. But if you look at my body of work, you're going to see a lot of different kinds of symbols that I believe that they change in terms of the other elements in each particular piece. But they are recurrent. In that way, my work is autobiographical, because it just comes out that way from my subconscious. So it has to do perhaps with something about my life in general. And since the same way that the dreams are perceived, I not necessarily understand what it is, but somebody with more knowledge psychologically could come out with some ideas of what is going on in that. It's not my job, and I'm not really interested, because I just like the surprise, and I like to wonder about what is this coming from, what does it mean?
Yes.
And so
that's a beautiful surrender to just being in that place and letting it come.
It's very liberating, because I don't have to think about what I'm going to paint.
Yes.
I don't have to,
For some people, that's frightening, though.
Yeah, but it gets to a point. In the beginning, like I said, it was very frustrating, but then it gets to a point that is so natural. It's a liberating experience.
I love the way that you're overlaying, or I'm not sure how you would describe it, the maps in your work. Speak a little bit about that series.
Well, about 4 years ago, I was in my studio, and I remember I was experimenting with this new medium, acrylic medium, and the medium it works as like a glue, but also as a varnish. So I had in my studio, I guess, in maps of South Carolina, and I decided just to cut a piece of the map, and I burned the edges of the map, and then I mounted the map on the canvas using that medium. And after I did that, I let it dry, and then I painted something on top of it. And I really like, my work is very graphic in a way, and very precise in some level, and it doesn't have many layers. So when I painted on top of the map, the layer was already there. So it wasn't a blank, or it wasn't like just one color like in most of my pieces. It was just there. So I decided to, that was really something that I liked. I like the effect. And you can still see the map, but also you can see the image. So you look at, it's kind of like it has a duality thing. It's a little ambiguous. And I like that about it. So I started, I don't know, maybe subconsciously, the map, me picking up the map, and not a magazine or something else, maybe it has something to do with my not being from here, and then moving here, and adapting to a new culture, and traveling. I travel quite a bit, and so I think maybe it has something to do with that. At that time, I wasn't really thinking about people relating to that. I was just doing my thing, but over time I realized that most people have used maps, and all over the world, and it's something that is very familiar to most people. So that was something that came after, as a bonus, I guess. People just relate to them and like them. And I was actually trying to work smaller too at that time. So I started a new series that there were not only the maps, but there were also smaller size paintings.
Okay.
And then as an extension of that, about less than a year ago, I started using stamps, perhaps for the same reason. they relate. You know, they move around.
Yes.
The maps. It has to do with travel and maybe communication too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But so it's like maps and now the stamps, and they're all part of the same series. But I really enjoy working on those. And for me, it's like it's very enjoyable because it doesn't take too much of my energy. Bigger works, it usually take about the same time, like 2, 3, 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But the maps, because they're smaller, it's a concentrated small area that it doesn't really take that much of my physical energy.
Yes. Oh, that makes sense.
So I think I feel like I'm not suffering that much. Because there is a certain amount of suffering, you know, because especially when I work in a large canvas, it's one session. So obviously when it's happening, it's just very enjoyable. But then afterwards, I feel really tired. You know, I feel hungry. All of a sudden, everything started kicking in.
All
like
the other
thirsty.
senses
Yes.
start to talk.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
It's really amazing. It's almost like I'm on adrenaline, and then I don't feel anything. I'm not hungry. I'm not thirsty. And all of a sudden, I finish, and it's like I'm exhausted, and my body aches, and almost like a workout. You know, the automatism is like it's something that the subconscious is coming, and it's concentrated in my hand. So all my senses are in that hand.
Yes.
At that moment.
Yes. And your body hasn't moved probably much in all that time.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Or it's somehow tense to control that hand.
Yes.
You know, just everything is kind of like the energy is going through there. So.
Yes. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for really opening your process and really
it's
sharing
good to
it.
know oneself in general.
Yes.
So in terms of the art, for an artist, it's important to know what your strengths are and what the best medium is to work. In my case, I work really fast, so acrylic is, and that takes time, you know. And in terms of the imagery, I will highly recommend the automatism, but you know, it's something that is kind of hard to teach that. So it's something very personal and it's frustrating at times, especially at first. But then once get used to working that way, it makes a huge difference. It really avoids so many issues, you know, like thinking about what it's gonna be. And
yes.
For me, it's very important to have the time, though. That is essential. I don't paint every day. I paint every 2 weeks or and so I try to let the urge grow on me, you know, like I really want to paint and maybe I don't, for some reason I don't have the time, but I like that feeling of eventually having that need of creating something.
Yeah, yeah. Letting it build, and then
yes,
you know it's ready to speak at that point.
Yep.
And the time magically will happen, right?
It's almost like you want to eat something, but then you're delayed, and eventually you get to a point that you're going to eat, and you're really tasting the food differently.
Yes.
It's like everything tastes great.
Yes, you take care with every bite at that point. Yes. That's a great point of view. Did you come to Colombia in the early 90s? Is that about the right time frame?
92.
Wow.
1992.
We're certainly delighted that you found Colombia on your journey.
It's hard to leave Colombia, you know? It's like a magnet. I thought about it over all these years, you know, I thought about maybe moving at some point, but, you know, it's a very comfortable place for living, and so I'm really enjoying it. It took me a while to adapt because I come from a big city.
Yes.
But after a few years, now I'm very comfortable here.
Good. I'm glad.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Marcelo, what a great time I've had hanging out with you and talking with you.
Too.
Thank you so much for your time, and we will just watch and wait and celebrate with you all the new work that'll come forth and enjoy it with you.
Thank you, Penny.
Thank you so much.